Hey, welcome to Fiddlehed Fiddle Lessons. Today we're going to be fiddling with a master practice list. So what is a master practice list? It's just a big old list of everything you've learned and practiced. It's very useful for a lot of reasons that we're going to get into, but mainly that it brings awareness to where you've been and where you want to go. And if you have that awareness, you're going to have more satisfying practice sessions that'll be more productive and fun. Also, it's kind of like having a practice partner, because if you have a comprehensive list of everything you've done, it's going to make suggestions to you. It's going to say, oh, what about this thing you did last year? And what about, you're doing this tune now, maybe you could try doing it in this scale, or maybe you could try doing it with looping or this and that. So it will make suggestions to you and really help to enrich your practice. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's look at what a master practice list could look like. I'm going to pull up the one on that I have on my course. So if we flip over to the course, we see a section for your practice journal. And I want to say that if you're not into keeping track of stuff on the computer, you can really do this in a couple good ways using analog solutions, which I'll talk about later in this lesson. So for now, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to click on my master practice list. This is just an example. I use a different app besides this called Roam, which I did a recent video interview on a show called Roam Sessions, in which I do a deep dive on how I practice and kind of showing how I use note-taking to practice. And on the lesson page for this video lesson, I'm also going to include that video to that. So hopefully that'll be useful. It's very nerdy, just so you know. Just warning. But if you're into that kind of thing, it might be fun for you. All right, so here's a typical master practice list. And I suggest starting with 3 big categories: tunes, techniques, and strategies, okay? You could do it any way you like, any way that works for you. That's an important theme that I'll probably say a few other times in this lesson, but it has to work for you. Otherwise, it's not useful, right? So make sure that it's something that your future self will find beneficial, will find value in it in your future self, not necessarily now. Okay, so tunes, I use the term tune very loosely to include fiddle tunes like Arkansas Traveler, TV themes or movie themes like Game of Thrones, classical pieces like Minuet and G, and pop songs like Yesterday. Whatever tunes and songs, basically. Now, if you want, you could create subcategories. You could create a subcategory for pop music, for country music, classical, and so on. It's whatever works for you. I wanted to keep this list simple, just for teaching purposes. All right, the next is techniques, which is basically all your skills. So keep track of every little skill you learn, all right? It's important to every little thing, partly just to know, again, the main reason for the awareness of where you've been and then what you want to do next. And having that list will help you to evaluate, oh yeah, like the major scales, I'm doing pretty well on those. Maybe I'm ready for a new scale, but low second finger needs work. And this interval, oh yeah, I think I'm good. You can even kind of take a day or a practice session and just go through each thing and play it and just kind of assess where you're at and then make a plan for the next week. So again, that's the ultimate purpose of this is awareness for a better practice session, and that's an example of how it could go. So I divided my technique section just into left hand or scales, right hand and bowing. And then of course you could do kind of subcategories as well there. For instance, slur 2, there's like maybe 15 to 20 ways I practice slurs on, and I just have a really extensive list for slurs, but you could do whatever works. I think just simply having an alphabetical list of stuff may be the best, especially if you're starting out. Like, I wouldn't make it too complicated at first. Finally, the strategies section And this is like your practice toolbox. These are things you would apply when working on your technique and skills, working on your tunes. You may be learning some tune, kerfunk and jig, and then you've played a few times like, okay, I'm a little bored, what do I do next? Oh, strategies. Oh, call and response. I haven't tried that with this tune, so how can I do it? Oh, I'll do it with my voice and playing. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Okay, what else can I do? Chaining. Maybe I'll chain those parts, so I'll chain the next part now. Now I'll chain a little bit more. Right? And so again, in this way, the master practice list is like a practice partner or even a teacher. It's saying, okay, you've done that. What about this? Right? And so it may be just a good thing to refer to and have open, yet you don't want to, you ultimately want to be playing and practicing. You don't want to spend your whole session nerding out with your master practice list and making it perfect. The idea is that it's going to make for a good session. So just keep that in mind too. You may want to just refer to it at the beginning of a session and then get into it, and then if you get stuck somewhere, refer to it. So just as an idea. So a few other things just about using it. So some questions could be useful as you practice. And I just wrote some down. What do I want to learn next? What still needs work? Like what am I kind of halfway there on, but I'm not like, I can't really feel confident about it yet. And then there's things that you were pretty sure you learned that you're confident with, but maybe they need to be pulled, back into your current practice, to be reviewed and refined. And maybe earlier you got to a certain point and you were really had done a lot of work and you felt really good about it, but now you've gotten better and you can go back and refine that tune or that technique even further. And I want to point out too, going back to the tunes list, there's like Twinkle Little Star. It's an easy tune, and a lot of people may think I've learned the tune and I've moved on to harder things and I don't need that tune. I don't even need to remember that I did it. But I encourage you to keep track of those easy tunes as well, partly because you can return to them to practice harder things. So this is a whole other subject, whole other lesson, but Twinkle Little Star, you could do all kinds of very challenging things like double stops. Or your Irish embellishments or something. Right? So don't discount those easy tunes you learned before. They can come in handy over and over again. Okay, so another use of the master practice list is that if you want to have a review session, you can quickly and just kind of see, okay, these are the tunes I want to review, and you can test your recall ability. So there's two different skills. I just did an office hours talking about this, that there's like learning a tune, learning how it sounds, and being able to just play it from memory. But then there's the recall. You may not connect the title with the tune. So you can actually practice this, you can practice this specific thing of recall. And in fact, you can practice anything, you can practice anything. Right, so I could just roll through my list and briefly play the tunes, like either play a fingerprint, like a little bit of the beginning of each one, like Arkansas Traveler, Blackest Crow, Cripple Creek. Oh, I don't remember that. So now I make some kind of note to myself, and I go and I practice it, or I pull up the music and I get into it, right? So this is just a way to see what you recall and actually practice that. Okay, so finally I'd like to say that, yeah, you can just make creative connections. I think I mentioned that already, but while you're playing some tune, you may want to connect it to some other tune. Maybe I want to, Shady Grove. Maybe I want to connect it to Swallowtail Jig. Maybe I want to add slur 2 to Swallowtail Jig. So it makes your practice very creative, being able to see all the things you've done in this way. All right, so what tool is best for doing this? Is it a piece of paper? Is it a computer? It's really up to you. You have to, that's a question you ask yourself. So I'm going to talk about some analog, old school ways to have this list, and then I'm going to talk about some digital ways to do it. So I think my favorite analog solution is index cards. I've done some lessons and a workshop with my online students using this, but basically every single practice item, create an index card. So here's a tune, little funkin' jig, just a little bit of sheet music to jog my memory. Then on the back, I take a few notes, how I practiced it, like transposing and so forth. All right, so that would be under the tunes category. Then I could have all my techniques. So this is melodic variation, it's a scale variation, so that would go in that pile. And then I have a strategy card. My writing's not very good, just kind of scrawled it, but it says extract the rhythm. And so this is a practice of taking a rhythm from a tune and taking a piece of a tune like that's Shooting Creek, and then just playing that rhythm on an open string. So anyhow, the index cards are a really fun way to do that, a really fun way to kind of keep everything in mind. And they have the added bonus of you can kind of create your own music practice game. You can kind of shuffle the deck, shuffle your tunes, throw out a few tunes, and maybe pick one of 3 that you pull or something. And then you could pull things from your strategy pile. There's just a lot of creative possibility for making the practice really fun. So that would be one idea. Another one would be if you have a dry erase board in your practice space, you could have like on one side, let's say on the left side, have all the stuff you're currently practicing, and then on the right side, maybe just a big master practice list of everything. And then you could kind of be adding stuff to the master list, you could be rewriting it and so forth. I think that's not quite as good because you could lose stuff or it could get really messy. But hey, whatever works. They're just throwing the idea out. Or you could use like a paper journal, or maybe like a 3-ring binder, and have like a sheet for your master practice list, and then another section for your current practice, another section for the tunes you're doing. And the main drawback to that is that it's harder to edit when it's just on a sheet of paper. Like if it's an index card, you can easily shuffle the order and order it. But if you've written it down, that's going to be a little harder. Maybe if you use pencil, but I just think that would be messy. So, and then for digital solutions, digital ways, probably the most common thing that you would all have access to would be like a word processing software. And that would be great because you could easily alphabetize your lists. You could easily do bullet points like you saw on my list. You could move things around, create subcategories or remove subcategories, but whatever works for you. So whatever tool you use, like Microsoft Word, Google Docs, Evernote, I use something called Roam, and I'm going to embed a video interview I did about how I practice with Roam on the lesson page if you want to check that out. The other main digital app you could use would be like a spreadsheet. And I've had my students do that. I had a student who was an accountant, and she was super good at the spreadsheet. She was super good at Excel. And so she just put her entire practice in there, and it was very cool. I might put an image of that on the lesson page as well. So it's whatever works for you ultimately. That's the tool to pick. Let's sum up the reasons why you would want to use a master practice list. The main reason is that it will bring greater awareness to your practice, and it will help you to build your skills steadily. Another reason is that it will encourage you. So learning an instrument is very emotionally challenging. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of doubt that really never goes away. I've been playing for a long time, since I was a kid, and there's still times when I feel very doubtful of my abilities. And so, but having this list really shows that you've come a long way, longer than you think, in that moment of desperation where you can't play that double stop and you're like, I could do it yesterday, but now I can't. What's wrong with me? So it'll help to overcome those kind of emotional downswings that happen, which is just a natural thing. And just as an aside, it's just knowing that everybody deals with that is a really helpful thing too. So when you get to that point, you'll be less likely to give up if you know that everybody else is experiencing frustration at one time or another. All right. And then finally, having this master practice list is almost like having a practice partner. It's like it will infuse creativity in how you practice. It'll help you to see connections with things. All right? So take this all with a grain of salt. Use it if it's useful. If it's not, then don't. But find your own way with this. This is just a big video full of suggestions for you. And if you do end up using it, please let me know. Send me a message, because I want to, and also tell me how you use it, because it'll probably help me in my own practice, but it'll help me to teach this, and then I can share the ideas you came up with in this lesson somehow. Okay, take care. Go to fiddlehed.com for a progressive step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.